It's obvious the only reason these guys are switching is because what's going on, guys? Welcome back, or if you're new here, I'm Blair and this is Throttle Blip. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about what this video is not. Is Harley Davidson or Indian motorcycles better? That's not what this video is. Jumping right into things, it's obvious the only reason these guys are switching is because they are being paid to do so. Now, that may be a little controversial, and it's not exactly what it sounds like. Who are these people that I'm talking about? Well, there's actually two groups. So let's start with the first group, the guys that actually switched from Harley to Indian, starting with the general, the man behind all of this, in my opinion, Carey Hart. Now, why is this important? So, Carey Hart used to be super Harley Davidson. As you see here, he built a bike for the 75th anniversary in Sturgis with Harley Davidson, was doing a lot of really cool things with Harley Davidson. Indian comes along. Indian offers Carey Hart money. Hey, start building our bikes, make our brand look cool. The money was great enough that Carey said, okay, I'm gonna switch. Now, I have since seen interviews with Carey where he said he really just does like the Indian motorcycle and it's superior in each and every way. However, before, when he was on the Harley, that apparently was not the case. So for the past few years, Carey has been building Indian motorcycles and doing a very good job at it, if you ask me. These bikes look amazing and I'm sure they perform amazing based on the parts that I'm seeing him put on these bikes. Now, for those that don't know, Carey Hart was a freestyle motocross guy in what seems like a different life because it's been a long time ago, but he was the first guy to ever complete a backflip. He did not ride away, so a lot of people can test whether he was the first one to actually do it. In my opinion, the dude pulled it off. He didn't ride away, but I don't care. That was the first backflip. He got the rotation, fell over on the landing, whatever. With that, he is good friends with Jeremy Stenberg, also known more commonly as Twitch. So Twitch also very much into the Harley Davidson scene, runs around with all of the unknown industry guys, very talented rider himself, not only with freestyle motocross, but with wheeling the Harleys, drifting the Harleys. You know, he's just got bike skills. Also hanging around with the unknown guys, I'm sure it's probably pretty easy to pick up on some tips and tricks. Carey brings Twitch into the scene, builds him a bike on a YouTube series that Indian seems to be producing, where Carey or other bike builders build bikes for certain people. So now Indian has Carey Hart on board, they have Twitch on board. Next up on the list, we have Seth Brisson. Now his name may not be quite as familiar as the other two guys, but he is equally as talented on two wheels. Now Seth runs around with the unknown industry guys. It only makes sense that when Indian is saying, hey, who else could we get, that Carey's gonna mention Twitch, Twitch is gonna mention Seth, and that's good looking out for your homie if you ask me. The way most of these things work is the bigger your name, the more you're gonna get. So the top tier guys are not only getting bikes from Indian motorcycles, they are also getting paid. Now, as you move down the ladder rungs of popularity, for lack of a better word, you may just be getting bikes, which is still pretty rad. Now we're gonna talk about that second group of guys, and stick with me, we're gonna talk about why all this matters and why this is important. The second group of guys will be the ambassadors. So not necessarily people that switched, but big names that most people will recognize and will hopefully attract new riders to ride Indian. Up first, we have TJ Dillashaw, very, very talented MMA fighter. Indian had a bike built for him, completely customized, thing looks sick. They did a really good job on this. Next, we have Norman Reedus, who is probably most known for his role on The Walking Dead. Same thing, they built him a bike, love the colors, love the design of this one, threw in some performance stuff. Really, really good build. And then it's been a little while, but I was also able to find a bike that they built for John Bernthal and gave to him. Now, this is nothing new. Harley Davidson does it too. They give motorcycles to select YouTubers, influential, which, by the way, they've never given me a motorcycle, but they give motorcycles to select influencers, Jason Momoa, for example. Now, let's talk about why, as a Harley guy, I love this. That's because we, as Harley enthusiasts, need Indian. Harley Davidson needs Indian. We need Indian to help hold Harley Davidson accountable. So if Indian moves their bikes and moves the needle forward on things, progresses things, you know, more power, better suspension, better looking bikes, it makes Harley Davidson step up their game. If Indian were to go away or just kind of stay, you know, down where they're at, Harley Davidson could get complacent and just do the bare minimum. But when other brands and other manufacturers start to thrive and do good, it makes Harley put out the absolute best they have to bring to the table and possibly even skip some steps. You know, just like with your phone, you go buy the new iPhone 13. Well, they've already got the 14 done. They're probably just working out the bugs, or maybe it's completely done, but it's a slow release. Whereas if a company, say like Indian, just absolutely drops a banger of a bike, Harley Davidson may have to kind of bump some things up and put out something a little earlier than they plan to, which at the end of the day is good for us. I do not care what you ride. I have absolutely no beef with Indian. If you look back in some of my old videos, I went to an Indian demo day, rode some Indians, and not a bad thing to say about them. Certain models I like better than the Harley. Certain models, I like the Harley version of that bike better. The Indian FTR Carbon, forever one of my favorite bikes that I've ever ridden, and also off the showroom floor, one of the best looking bikes I've ever seen. Hats off to Indian for that. So this is not an anti-Indian video or criticizing them for throwing some money. If anything, I think it's good. Throw some money, throw some bikes at certain people, and let's see what you guys can do. The obstacles that Indian faces are lack of dealer network. Compared to a Harley Davidson dealership, how many Indian dealerships do you see? Not that many. I have to drive pretty dang far to get to one, whereas there's 4 or 5 Harley Davidson dealerships closer to me than any one Indian dealership. Secondly, you do not have as strong of an aftermarket, and that makes sense. If you make aftermarket parts, you're going to go for whoever has the lion's share of the industry. And in the V-twin industry, like it or not, Harley Davidson easily has that title. You go to any big bike week, you know, wherever it may be, and look at how many bikes are out there and look at how many of them are Harley. The vast majority of those bikes gonna have the Harley Davidson badge on the side. So if you make parts, that only makes sense to spend your money doing R&D to build parts for Harley, and then if there's anything left, they make stuff for Indian, which seems to be the case. Now there are a few people that work a little closer with Indian motorcycles. Roland Sands comes to mind. I know he makes a ton of stuff for Indian, but look at guys say like Thrashin'. They're doing Harley parts only, and it makes sense as a business model. And lastly, one of the things that I picked up when I was in sales at a Harley Davidson dealership was how tough it is to resell an Indian motorcycle. So I learned that when a guy would come try to trade it in. As a Harley dealership, we weren't allowed to sell Indian. So this is how that process worked for those that don't know. I contact our closest Indian dealer and say, hey, I have a guy trying to trade in, you know, name the year, name the model. It's got X amount of miles. How much will you guys give for that? That's how much I'm going to allow that customer for that bike. Oftentimes, the Indian dealers would say, hey, we're not buying anything right now, or they would just come back with an absurdly low number to the point where I would start calling them on speakerphone, tell my customer to be quiet, just so they knew I wasn't the bad guy not trying to give them any money. I've also seen private sales, guys trying to sell Indian motorcycles. They're just a little harder to move than the Harley Davidson. Hopefully Indian motorcycles can overcome some of those things. The bikes are already great. They just kind of need to grow the business. As always, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. Leave a comment down below. Also, for those that have been asking me in the comments, yes, I will be at Harley Davidson's 120th anniversary. There'll be a video coming out very shortly with a little bit more details on that, but I look forward to seeing you guys there. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.